Alrighty, good Sunday evening to you, Ray Sechrengost. Welcome to the power of your testimony. It's been a few weeks since I've been on. I had some traveling to do for NAMI Smart's recovery teacher training. And then I've been on the other side of what we're going to talk tonight, which is the roller coaster of bipolar disorder. A few little local things I want to discuss and get out there. I had a run-in the last week with one of the state representatives. I think it's important for all of Shelby County to get behind the Memphis elections. Local elections are just as important, county elections are important, state elections are important, and national elections are important. And one of the things that if you want to experience change, there has to be unity, especially around certain communities. As people are being brought from other areas into those communities to help boost those communities, then you start to see there's division amongst themselves. It's kind of hard to battle the people in power if we're not united. So I just wanted to share that to you. Get out and vote. Vote for what you believe in. I mean, I don't care if it's who I endorse or whatever community leader endorses. Get out and vote. It is important. That being said, I traveled to Raleigh, North Carolina with NAMI National. I was trained as a Smarts for Advocacy teacher. So I'm able now to teach the NAMI way of advocacy, which is good for Ray because it gives Ray a structure rather than Ray going all over the place. Again, this is the power of your testimony, and what we're going to talk about tonight is bipolar disorder from one man's point of view. I used to hate the phrases like manic depression or things of that nature. These days, I respect those phrases because they really do explain it really clear. There's manic or mania, and then there's depression. So for the rest of this conversation, we're going to be talking about Ray Sechrengost. That's the only thing I'm an expert in is Ray Sechrengost. I don't care how many certificates or degrees or what doctors want to say about it. The only person that's an expert in your mental health is you. You know how your body feels, you know what your triggers are, you know what medicine works, you know how you're feeling on any given day. I am very fortunate that I stay very high on the manic side. That's when you see Ray all the time on Facebook Live, and Ray all of a sudden he's with the governor, and Ray, he's going, and you got to wonder sometimes where in the world does this guy get the energy? Now you have to remember that I'm a recovering addict. I liked speed and cocaine and those type of things 20 years ago. Can you imagine this guy high? And I pardon for the trigger there, but that's the truth. I would really be going. I'm fortunate with medication management that my depression is not nearly as severe as it once was. My mania seems to be more controlled, but it's still there. The symptoms are still there between the two. The aggression, the irritability, the grandiose thinking, the demands, those type of things are still there. With me, the depression is simply isolation, loss of interest in things that I like to do. Those are some of the big things. Not taking care of myself, or whatever that may be. So that leads us into a few things, and I want to give some basic overview. Some of you, the people that live with bipolar disorder, may already know some of these things, but some people may not. So I want to share with you my knowledge as a certified peer recovery specialist in both mental health and substance abuse, how these illnesses, how I've learned to understand them. Bipolar disorder is broke down into many categories. It's not just simple bipolar disorder. The primary categories are bipolar 1 disorder and bipolar 2 disorder. I can explain it really simply to you. Bipolar 1 disorder has a lot more frequency in events. They cycle a lot. And we're not talking about just going through a rush at one moment and then going through a depression at one moment. We're talking about consistent cycles 4, 6, 7, 8 times a year, where you're going through the roof and then you're coming down. Before, without medication and therapy and some of those things, staying involved, volunteering, and learning, I didn't have any control over it. Now, when I say control, means I'm aware of it. Okay, I'm being manic. Okay, I'm being depressed. That enables me not to be scared, number one. It helps my frustration, because of course I want to be that enthusiastic, energetic guy all the time, but that's just not physically possible for me, that being. I also don't want to be isolated and hidden away and not expressing and being transparent that not all the sides of Ray that you see are fantastic. A lot of them are, but not all of them. So that's bipolar 1 disorder. The frequency tends to be more on the manic side and less on the depressive side. Bipolar 2 disorder is a little different. Bipolar 2 disorder happens with less frequency, but still several times a year. The difference is that they tend to stay on the depressive side. People who live with manic bipolar disorder 2, they tend to stay on the depressive side with little boosts of mania. And again, it's not quite as extreme, but it is still there. So basically, you have your bipolar 1 disorder, which is all over the place, right? The roller coaster. And then the Texas cyclone, those type of roller coasters. Then you have what's still a roller coaster, but doesn't have quite the deep dips and the things like that, and the frequency isn't as much, but it's still very severe. You have hypomania, which is best described as someone who has little bursts of mania. They're just hyper, into the mania side. They don't experience a lot of depression. They're just hyper a lot. They talk a lot, and they're just hypermania, but they don't have the severeness of thinking that tomorrow they're going to be the President of the United States. That would be hypomania. Cyclomania is a little different because you're going very fast and very short into these bouts. So you're going through mania very fast, you're going through depression very fast, you're going through mania very fast, you're going through depression very, very fast. And this continues on, this cycle, for a long period of time, and it can be quite exhausting, all of them. So that gives you a little basic overview of what I'm not afraid to call manic depression, but it is called by the DSM-5 bipolar disorder. One of the big things that all of these have in common is bipolar anger. Bipolar anger is different than normal anger. Bipolar anger tends to be lashing out to the loved ones and the people that care about you because you don't know how to explain what's happening to you. That just an hour ago or a day ago You were that super go-getter who was going to be at the NAMI Tennessee convention, volunteering, doing all these things, and hey, just setting the world on fire. And the next minute, reality sets in, and that's not the case. And so you become angry. You begin to lash out at the people closest to you, regardless if they were even part of the problem. Nothing seems to make you happy, which is different than normal anger. Normal anger, when you're heard, you tend to calm down. You're upset or pissed off about something, you tend to calm down. With bipolar anger, no. And so that's a lot of times why myself, and I assume other people, why we isolate, is because we don't want to take it out on our loved ones. So if we stick to ourselves, most of the time, that we don't argue with ourselves. Keep all these symptoms in mind, that there's a reason why manic depressive disorder is called that, schizoaffective disorder is called that. Typically, people with bipolar disorder don't have that severe depression to be considered major depressive disorder. When you get into that, that's a different, or schizoaffective disorder. Schizoaffective disorder is the symptoms of schizophrenia with a combination of manic depressive disorder. So you can imagine that's the bipolar of schizophrenia. That would be the bipolar type of that. You don't have any mania. There is no boost of energy. You have the schizophrenia, which is the side effects of that, voices or sounds or those type of things, and depression. And that being said, I think it's important that everyone, it happens to me a lot. I'll run into somebody and I'll say, yeah, I'm Ray. I live with managed bipolar 1 disorder. And they're like, I have bipolar 1 disorder. We're just alike. And, do you ever have this and this? And I'm like, whoa. Yes, we share similar characteristics. But there are no two people that live with any disorder, mental health disorder, that are the same. It affects me different than it affects anyone else with bipolar 1 disorder, or bipolar 2, or major depressive disorder, or anxiety, or panic attacks, or we can go through the whole list. No two people are the same. Everyone is different. Everyone recovers differently to different management. That's why they always teach you in the training that we're not doctors, we're not nurses. They're reading out of a book. My personal opinion is I think that my lived experience is just as valuable. I like to call myself sometimes a laboratory rat, because I have medications tried out on me, and it's constantly changing. But again, I'm just one person. I had this side effect, or this worked for me. That doesn't mean it's going to work for everyone. We all have different chemicals. There's lots of different medication, and they're constantly learning about new medication. I guess I need to caption this by saying there is no cure for any of these mental health disorders. There's hope of having a happy, balanced, functioning life, which happens every day. Thousands and hundreds of thousands of people live that. We all have in the back of our mind the fear of when it may come back. But I promise you, the biggest obstacle was to finally understand that after 45 years that I have these disorders, and it's okay. That took half the pressure off of me, because I knew what was wrong. Okay, I'm going into a depressive spell. There's not a lot people can do for me here. I just have to ride it out. I know that it doesn't last too long for me. I keep track of my episodes. I know that, okay, I'm going to go a period manic, and then I'm going to go a short period, and then I'm going to be back like it never happened. Right? That's again, I want to go back to why you heard me talking every day on Facebook Live. Every minute there was Ray doing another Facebook Live, and then you haven't heard anything from Ray in almost 10 days. It's exactly because of that, the isolation, the depressive side. Doesn't mean I lay in bed and cry all day and, all that stuff. And it just means I just blah. I just, I don't have the energy to fight, those type of things. But when I'm manic, I want to create new ways to do everything. So that's kind of that part. I am pro medication management. I believe that it provides tools to lessen the side effects of the untreated disorders. Someone who self-medicated for many, many years, not only did I have the underlying issues, which to me were 7 disorders, I complicated it with substances and then alcohol to self-medicate. It's been 4 years or so since I've been consistent on medication and without external influences, and it definitely has made a difference in just controlling my mind. I know that my body's saying, okay, it's time to rest and recharge the batteries so we can go again. So, that's a little basic overview, but it's important to understand that there's so many different regimes in medication. One of the things I learned this week is I have high blood pressure. I've known that. But I learned that my medication, a beta blocker, for my high blood pressure actually works on the same receptor in the brain that some of my other medications work on for my mental health. And who would have known? And that's basically, if you don't know the basics of medication, they're targeting specific areas in your brain to be able to control the firing and the chemical release of these receptors. And I challenge you to take control of your own health. I've shared this before, and I'll share it again. Anytime I sit in front of a doctor or a nurse, I ask them, number 1, have you lived with bipolar disorder? Number 2, are you an alcoholic? Number 3, is this. And because if the answer is no, then I already know that you're reading to me out of a book, which is valuable. But you're not talking to me from lived experience. I find much greater knowledge from someone who's lived there and been there and done that. I think there's an automatic bond that what it's like to not be able to slow down. People say you're talking a mile a minute. Whoa, I can't keep up with you. Well, to me, I'm just talking just fine. We're just going along. We're jumping from this day. Did you check out the pool? Did you see this show yesterday? And then what about this NAMI convention coming up? And for someone who doesn't have it, it's unfair. Someone who doesn't live with it, it's unfair for me to think that they should automatically know how to understand it. In their mind, they're dealing with their own issues, and all they're like is, look, Ray, slow down, and I can't keep up with you. I'm pretty used to the, hey, I was just about to walk into a meeting, or hey, I've got this going on, or to get off the phone, because they're having sensory overload. But me, I'm just talking normal in a manic state. It does not mean there aren't some good qualities to mania, and there aren't some good qualities to having self-care and resting. It just means that you'll find great relief in when you identify them. So anyway, that's the basics of bipolar roller coaster. And I think it's important that we take time from lived experience. I'd like to have some guests on to talk about schizoaffective disorder, to talk about major depressive disorder. I can talk to you about social phobia. Anybody that knows me thinks I'm lying. But I've learned how to use that mania and put on that facade, because I'm actually very, very shy around people. But I learned to put on that persona to work through it. It's part of my recovery, is to force myself to do it. Panic disorder, it's the same thing. I've learned to face situations that would make me panic and work through them. Once I've worked through it, I begin to gain confidence. And that's important, to be able to, well, I've been here. I know this passes. Anxiety is another one. Oh my goodness, anxiety. We all have some, but when it gets so overwhelming, we're afraid to leave the house, and it can be insane. Anybody who knows me, I live with agoraphobia. Agoraphobia simply means that I need to know my exit at all times. I do not like to sit with my back away from things. I like to know my way, means of escape. Um, Specific phobias, been afraid of bridges, heights, those type of things for quite a while. Didn't used to be, but for quite a while. I'm facing them day by day. I don't run from bridges anymore. I push myself through it. And these words of encouragement are to you to do the same. Whatever it is that you might be afraid of, baby step your way into facing it. Dodging it only creates more anxiety and more depression, a sense of like failure because you didn't face it. And I challenge you not to go crazy, but to baby step, to face little things like that, and to realize you're shy and to be open about it. At first time, after telling people I live with bipolar disorder, as soon as I would start talking, they'd say, "Ray, you're being manic." Okay, I really wasn't being manic. I could show you manic if you want to. But that's okay, because what they're basically translating to me is it's too much for me to process at this moment. And that's a good line of communication when you're dealing with someone with mental health disorder. That person has to convey to the listener that, hey, look, if I get to being like this, I'm just being manic. Or schizophrenia. Would you ever, if you answer yes to this question, you and me need to have a serious conversation. But would you ever tell someone that has schizophrenia that it's hearing sounds and voices that they're not real? Because if you do, you completely don't understand the disorder at all. If it was that simple, that it wasn't real, there would be no such thing as schizophrenia. To them, it is real, and there's nothing that you are going to say. And on the same token, validating it and saying you hear it too is not helping either. The basics of how to care someone with schizophrenia, schizoaffective disorder, is be there and let them lead. If they're overstimulated, let them leave. Would you like to step out for a few minutes? Would you like to go back to the hotel room? Or would you like to go home? Or whatever it may be, let them lead. Too many times we want to be a rescuer and save people. That's not the way to, in my opinion, to approach bipolar disorder. I had a few guests lined up next week for making a difference in the lives of others. One will be a continuation on this topic that I mentioned about schizoaffective disorder. Unfortunately, I won't be able to make the NAMI Tennessee State Convention this year, but I will be there in heart and spirit, and I will be on the journey of repairing my vehicle and those type of things. And it's been a blessing, actually, for the few weeks down, just to slow down. Like I said, I was blessed to be able to travel to Raleigh and go to some amazing training that I'm excited to bring back. It's 6 2-hour module classes, so it's 12 hours. It is a complex thing, but it is a national NAMI training, so CEUs are available for it. I'm excited to get out and share a little bit about how Ray goes about advocating with the way NAMI does it. So in other words, to keep me on script. So I look forward to that. Look forward to class, hopefully coming up before the end of the year. I'm not exactly sure where. I would assume somewhere between Memphis and Nashville. But anyway, there's your catch up. Much love to you. I'm always here if you need anything. If I can't answer it, I'll get you to someone that can. Keep reaching for the stars, and again, we'll all grow together. We're all awesome. We all bring something to the table. And don't forget that. There's no Ray without you. You're important to me. You're important to a lot of people. So smile. Tomorrow is a new day. Enjoy the rest of today. Catch the sunset. Turn on your favorite show. Go eat some ice cream. Do something. Take a long bath. Play your favorite album. Do something that you like to do this evening. All right? Again, much love. We'll talk to you soon. All right?